Praise the Lord. Once more, it is my singular privilege again to have this time with you. We had the opportunity to share last time, and today we'll have another opportunity to share. And I just wish that everybody should benefit from what we are going to share, because we know that God, our Creator, has everything concerning our lives. That is why we must always start with God. Let's pray. In Jesus' name we pray. Lord, we are grateful for this opportunity you've given us to see this day. But since from the last time we met in this meeting, a lot of people have lost their lives. A lot of people are lying sick in hospitals, but you have given us the grace to see again today. It is not by our might, but it's by, oh God, your grace. We pray and we ask you, oh Father, that you make the topic of our discussion today a blessing to all of us in Jesus' name. Thank you, Lord, because we know you've had an answer. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. So today we are going to look again in the Word of God under a short topic, just obey. And our text is taken from the book of 2 Kings, chapter 5. In 2 Kings, chapter 5, I'm reading verse number 1. Now Naaman, captain of the host of the king of Syria, was a great man with his master and honorable, because by him the Lord had given deliverance unto Syria. He was also a mighty man in valor, but he was a leper. And the Syrians had gone out by companies and had brought away captive out of the land of Israel a little maid. And she waited on Naaman's wife. And she said unto her, Mistress, would God, my Lord, were with the prophet that is in Samaria, for he would recover him of his leprosy. And one went in and told his Lord, saying, Thus and thus said the maid that is of the land of Israel. And the king of Syria said, Go, and I will send a letter unto the king of Israel. And he departed and took with him 10 talents of silver and 6,000 pieces of gold and 10 changes of raiment. And he brought the letter to the king of Israel, saying, Now, when this letter is come unto thee, behold, I have therewith sent Naaman, my servant, to thee, that thou mayest recover him of his leprosy. And it came to pass, when the king of Israel had read the letter, that he rent his clothes and said, Am I God to kill and to make alive, that this man doth send unto me to recover a man of his leprosy? Wherefore, consider, I pray you, and see how he seeketh a quarrel against me. And it was so when
so just as Broshegun said, so let me share my screen first, then I will go on with the other parts of the conversation. So can we all see my screen?
Yep, I will see it.
Okay. So today we will be talking around how we can go about applying. So application definitely starts with getting the information we need, right? Information is key, like I said earlier when we're starting off. So when we started the first webinar, one of the documents I shared was an Excel sheet called the grad school application tracker. Now, this is highly important because you don't just want to check schools, right? So Broshegon actually shared like a list of schools in Pennsylvania and said, okay, these are the schools available that you could apply to, share information and like the acceptance rate and all that. So the second part is now on us to gather the information. That's why I put the word information gathering under it. Now, this is highly important because you want to see, based on schools always provide you with information, right? So information on finance, which is important. So funding, which is what everybody's calling scholarships, right? So funding, information on the program itself, information on the course schedule. So what does your course contain? So if I'm coming to study history, what courses are you going to be teaching me, right? So either if I'm taking a master's, or I'm taking a bachelor's, or I'm taking a PhD program, what am I going to be learning? They give you a breakdown of the courses you'll be taking, right? Which is also important because you want to know that, okay, this course you are coming in for, it's giving you the right kind of knowledge you need for whatever you want to do in the future. Either you want to go back to Nigeria to work, you want to work in the US, you want to know that you learned the right information for the kind of job that you're looking for. So if it's not giving you that, then you might want to like instead apply to a different program that provides you that, right? I also like to add a caveat. If you're an undergraduate or maybe finishing from secondary school and you're here, in the US, you cannot apply straight to medical school, unlike Nigeria, or straight to law school, unlike Nigeria. In the US, if you are looking to study medicine, you first have to study a science-based course. So biochemistry, microbiology, biology, cell and molecular biology. Those are the courses you have to apply to first, right? And then when you are done with that first degree, you then apply to medical school. So you don't see people who are like 16-year-olds, 15-year-olds, 17-year-olds here in medical school. You have to be at least 21 to enter medical school. And you must have a first degree. Same thing with law. You must have studied maybe philosophy, sociology, psychology, finance, accounting, all those courses that you have like the different parts of it in law before you can then apply to law school. So that I just wanted to get that out of the way because people have been asking that question. Now the next thing is, now I talked about this in the last meeting around factors to consider when choosing the school. So reputation of the program. So you want to go to a school that is heavy on research, right? So those schools are usually called R1 schools. R2 schools are also a bit heavy on research, but they are not as strong as R1 schools. Now, these schools are graded R1, R2 because of the kind of funding for research they get. So R1 schools are like top, right? They have lots of funding. It's not just your Harvard and the others. There are lots of schools that are also R1 schools. Now, you want to apply to R1 schools because they have more funding, right? Because it means that most of the faculty members have funding. If not, in fact, all of the faculty members have funding from various agencies. So this is not just a science thing. So humanities, arts, and the others, right? And now this is important because you want to go to a school where you'll be funded, right? Or where you have the chance to get funded, which is what, like I said, what we call scholarships. And if you are going to a school where they are not well funded, you are likely going to have to pay a certain percentage. And we all know that with the exchange rate, if you're having to pay like $10,000, $5,000, that's a lot. Even $1,000 is still a lot because you could have done something else with that $1,000, right? Then now the remaining part is I'm referring to those who are applying to graduate programs, so masters and PhD, so faculty research interest. So another thing I would like to talk to us about is you have to at least have an idea of what you want to do. And just like Pastor said, right, we're not going to give you everything because we can't give you everything. What we can do is guide you and direct you that this is how you can go about this with what you have. This is how you can go about this with what you have, right? But you have to first know what do you want to study? Like, what are you looking to study? So you had a bachelor's in architecture. What are the fields available in architecture? Because I'm not in architecture, right? So I cannot tell you, okay, go to urban and regional planning or go to landscape. you have to understand what is happening in architecture in the world. Where is the world tending to in architecture? Because this will help you when you look through the faculty, right, at what kind of work they are doing. Then quality of research facilities. If it's an R1 school, you have no problem with this. They would always have very good research facilities, right? So this is like their labs and whatnot. This is important because you are not coming from Nigeria to experience the same thing. You want to experience better research options, in better conversations, better utilities available to you, right? And so that's why that is important. And then also career paths of the alumni. Schools brag about this. Schools place this on their website, and I'll show us how to search for all this. You want to see where have the students from that program, where have they gone on to? So schools always reach out to their alumni. Oh, sorry, hi, you finished at this time. Sorry, where are you currently working? So you see them so that you can see, they do this to show you that, okay, you can go work anywhere, right? So someone in history, you can see that, oh, they might show you on the program's website. Our alumni, maybe 40% are currently working with the federal government, 20% are in academia, 10% are running their own business, you understand? So they want to show you that people are doing the various things with the same degree that they had, sorry. Then also another thing you want to check is the incoming class size. And I'll show you also how to check that. Most program websites have a tab called students, right? Current students. Some have prospective students, so that's information for people who are trying to apply. Then you have current students. So you see like the various either masters, bachelors, or PhD students that are in that program, right? Now, I'm saying we should always check this because you want to know how big is the incoming class. So if, for example, you see a program that has only 4 students, either at PhD level, master's level, or undergraduate level, then that speaks a lot to that program. It's either they don't have enough funding and so cannot take enough students, or it is highly competitive. But what we say is the first, they don't have enough funding. And so you don't want to apply to such a program because the chances are very, very low. I'm not saying someone cannot get into such a program, but I'm saying the chances are very low, right? And it also means that there's a likely chance that the amount of faculty available to mentor you is also limited. Because if they have a lot of faculty or you have a good amount of faculty, then they will also have a good amount of funding, right? And so they can take in more students. Then when you're looking at the class size, that's usually the first years, either first years for bachelor, first years for masters, first year for PhD. You also want to look at the proportion of international students, because another thing you want to see is representation, right? I want to see people like me. If I go to a program and I see that they are all white, that is kind of, but there's already like an unofficial quota system. So most schools in the US, not most, but a good number of schools in the US probably admit three American students to 1 international student, right? But schools are changing that. So if I go to a school and I see 10 students on the first year and I see 4 international students, that's a good place to apply to. But if I see only 1, I might want to put it on maybe, right? Like the program I applied to in the School of Medicine here, we were 4 of us that applied, 4 Nigerians, 2 of us got in. The other 2 are in some other schools in the US, Kentucky and the others. But my program has a lot of international students, Chinese students, Indians, Taiwanese, Southern Africans, and others. So that still gave us like a bit of calm, right? That, okay, this is a good program to apply to. I believe Shegun also experienced the same thing. Because I know in Shegun's program, there are like 2 Nigerians. The program might not be overly large, but at least they have a good representation. Then another thing you want to look at is the city's living standards and the international community. Now, the international community part is important because say when you get admitted, right? It's going to be a bit of work to settle in, whether you like it or not, because it's a new place, a new system, a new community, a new society. But having people who are either Nigerians, Africans around helps you to settle in. So in terms of accommodation, in terms of transportation, where you should go, places you should avoid, that kind of thing, it's important. But I won't talk much about that because we're talking about the starting part of this whole process, which is the application, right? when we get to that bridge of settling in on admission, we'll talk about that. Now, why are we working on the application tracker sheet? Why is it important? We could have just gone straight to say, okay, send your CV, send this, and then let's start. So the first part is collection of information on the university, the program you're applying to, opportunities also. Opportunities are different from funding. That's why I put them separately. Opportunities could be like maybe some programs offer internship, some programs offer some extramural training, some programs offer you the opportunity to also teach. This is for graduate programs now, not undergraduate programs. Undergraduate programs might offer you maybe like a study abroad or something like an exchange program. You also want to know that, right? Course structure, which is important. What kind of courses? Schools always detail it. Okay, in your first year, you will take this course. Your second year, you take this course. In your third year, you take this course. Your fourth year, you take this course. If it's PhD, your fifth year, maybe you might, but most times by second year, you are not taking courses again. But for undergraduate, you see the various courses you'll be taking. So that way you know what you will be learning at various times, right? Also, evaluation of application readiness. This is very important because when you check the program's requirement for application, they always state what they want, right? Most times I advise people to check the program and not the graduate school. The graduate school is always generalized, right? But the program gives you specific, and the program also uses the graduate school's requirement. So you are okay already. Because when they are checking your application, they first check it for that does it meet the graduate school requirement, then they check does it the program requirement. But at all times, if you meet the program requirement, you would always meet the graduate school requirement, right? Now, if I check a program requirement, I see that they require GRE. I've never written GRE, right? And I see that the application cycle is ending September 2nd. And maybe the next GRE date is November. It means that I can't apply to that program because I'm not ready, right? But if I see that it does not require GRE, maybe it requires English proficiency testing, maybe IELTS with a score band of 8, maybe TOEFL with a score of 100 and above, which is what most schools say. And maybe requires SOP, 3 letters of recommendation, and unofficial transcripts. And I have all those, then I'm ready for the application. And if I see another application that says, okay, it requires some other more stringent measures like IELTS again, TOEFL, IELTS or TOEFL, GRE with certain scores, then it means that I can apply to such programs, right? If I've never even written any exam, I don't have any official transcript ready, it means that, okay, I probably have to go and start working on those things. So it allows you know where you are at currently and where you need to be, right? Which is very important. So I would start now. So I'm going to use 3 schools in the state of Pennsylvania. I'm going to use University of Pennsylvania. I'm going to use University of Pittsburgh, and I will use Lehigh University as the 3 schools I'll be using to show us how to fill in the application tracker, how to search the website, right? I chose these schools at random also because there are schools that I recognize are R1 schools. Most schools in the state of Pennsylvania are R1 schools, but those schools I recognize them at any point, right? And I'm going to do both humanities and STEM so that it answers both questions, but it's still the same process for both in terms of like gathering the information. So it's not like one is different from the other. So I'll stop sharing my screen and then share the next screen. So please remember, if you have questions, send your questions, and we would answer them also. Someone is asking what are the names of the schools. So I believe Rochelle shared a list of schools. Now, that wave language test. Now, this is part of what I'm going to be showing you in the application tracker. It's part of what is required of you, not us, right? To check for language tests. Now, I would like to add that the good part of it is that most schools in the US, Pennsylvania also, are currently waiving language tests for Nigerians. But you have to check that on your own. I I can't say, okay, this school is waiving. Because some schools also require, like, offer you the opportunity of teaching assistantship. And for you to become a teaching assistant, that means you are taking classes for a professor, you're paying a professor to teach a class, right? You have to have an English proficiency test done, because they want to know that you can speak English, you can teach, you can write, blah, 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 in English, even though English is your first language. We're still seen as second language speakers. And a teaching assistantship comes with funding, extra funding also. So you see why I'm saying that if the program you're applying to offers extra funding in teaching assistantship, but you don't have an English language proficiency test score, then you're likely not going to get that opportunity. Even if they have waived English for Nigerians, you're likely not going to get that opportunity, because that's like an extra incentive for that. So I'll share my screen now. So I would show the application tracker first, and then I will fill it and then use the internet to just show us. There's nothing special in anything I'm doing. It's just simple, straightforward things that we do with our internet when we're trying to check, oh, what is the scores or what is happening in our world, right? So this is what the application tracker looks like. So you have university as the first column. You have city, your course of study. Now, contact faculty. Now, contact faculty, so usually every program has what you call a faculty coordinator, a program coordinator. So this is like, you would say in the Nigeria, you say like HOD, right? So this is the person that is like the director of the program. So any information you are seeking that you need, maybe you don't understand something around the funding, or maybe the language of the funding is not clear. Maybe the application requirements, like someone was asking now, waiving of language, English language test. So maybe you want to ask if, oh, I'm from Nigeria, I speak English, I was trained in English is our first language. Can my English language requirement be waived? This is the kind of person you will be sending the email to, right? So whatever they tell you is usually fine now. Now, potential advisors. This sheet was built with graduate school in mind, right? So undergraduates, you don't need to look at potential advisors. You just apply to the program, right? So now, potential advisors. So if you're applying for a master's or a PhD, this is where you look at the faculty registry, right? Or the faculty list to see those whose research interests you like, or you feel like, okay, I can see myself working with this person. I can see myself pursuing this field of interest, right? So you put their names here, Dr. this, Dr. that, Dr. this. Then, sorry, let me rephrase this. So contact faculty, sorry, let me rephrase that. Contact faculty was actually a reference to if the school requires you to send emails to faculty. So there are some schools in the US that you don't come straight into the program. You go straight into the lab or the research group of a faculty member. And so you will see that on the program requirements, right? So they'll tell you, oh, contact faculties, blah, 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 blah. So if a school is requiring that, then you want to put it that, oh, yes, they require contact faculty. If no, then you say no. Potential advisors, like I said, is faculty members that you want to work with. So you put their name here. Then advisors/grad coordinator contact. So you put the name of the grad coordinator and their email, because you always want to have it ready if you want to send questions. Then faculty website or the program website, you can put it here. Then also the research interest of the faculty. Most times when I'm going to show us this, when you open the website page where the faculty members are listed, when you click on the faculty's name or picture, they will show you their research interest. So what kind of research are these faculty members doing? What are they interested in? Now, this is important because if you have to send an email to faculty members, you want to talk about how you're interested in their research interest, right? And you cannot say you're interested in something you have not read or you have not seen or that you don't know about. So if I'm interested in football science, for example, you can't just contact me and say, oh, so I'm interested in your work. And that seems shallow. So I want to say, oh, I'm interested in football science. I believe that current trends in blah, 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 blah. It shows that you are interested, right? Because one of the key things around admission is fit. How well do you fit with faculty members that are available in that program? And you can only show this, apart from your application materials, you can only show this when you've specifically look at what research interest within that faculty group can you work with? Because nobody wants to actually mentor somebody that is not interested in what they are doing. Their research is like their baby, right? It's important to them. So they want to be sure that, okay, if I'm taking you under my wing, this is something that you want to see yourself doing, right? It shouldn't be like I'm forcing you. So the way they are happy and they're interested in their research, they want to know that, okay, this person is happy about it. And also that this person can follow the science, right? Or can follow the research objectives and understand it also. Now, the next most important tab is admission requirements. What does the program require for admission, right? For your application. Now, this is important because most programs have like similar requirements, but they have like little differences. Now, in the last webinar, we spoke about statement of purpose and personal statement, and I explained the difference, right? That a personal statement is not just a collection of you explaining your research experience, but also it's explaining personal experiences that have driven you to this field of research, right? So you're not just talking about your life generally. That's the mistake people make when writing a personal statement. You're not just to talk about your life generally. We are supposed to talk about experiences outside science, right? That have like pushed you in this direction of science that you are going. So how has your life affected you that, oh, I want to pursue language science. I want to pursue accounting. I want to pursue this, right? So not just what I studied in school, but maybe I've noticed that this issue in the society as regards banking. So I feel like I can fill in that space. So letters of recommendation. Some schools require 2, some schools require 3, but averagely all schools require 3 letters of recommendation in the US. And I'd like to point out that for letters of recommendations, please, at least one of those letters should come from your supervisor, either undergraduates, masters, or bachelors. If you are someone who is an undergraduate, you can get from like your secondary school teachers, your principal, whoever was like a head of something over you, right, in school. But this is important because your letter of recommendation is one of the things that introduces you to those people. Because until you are invited for, please, whoever that is, kindly mute. Until you're invited for like the admission, right? Until you are giving the invited for the interview, sorry, for the admission, they would never speak to you physically, right? So it is your CV, your SOP, and your letter of recommendation that would speak for you. And so that's why it's very, very important, especially letter of recommendation is very important. Then the start date of the application. So most programs in the US, the application starts mid-August or early September. That's when the application cycle starts. So that's when you can start submitting applications. And then deadline, when does this close? So for most international students, you are applying for fall. So fall is from August to December, right? Spring is from January to March-ish. Some schools do spring admissions for international students, but I always advise people to apply to fall the fall session, because the fall session is like a restart of a new session, right? So funding has come in for people, for lecturers that applied for funding. Everything is well arranged, right? But by the time you get to spring, they're already giving most of the funding to students that have been admitted in fall. So there are very few available. So it becomes more competitive, right? Even those that do rolling admission, that means you can apply at any time of the year. That is also tricky because funding might not be available. Then another thing again you want to have is the program website. So it's simple. Once you get to the program, copy the website and put it here. So it makes it easy for you to access it at any time, right? So you don't also have to have lots of tabs open on your system or your phone. You can just come back to your application sheet, click it, and then go. Now, this sheet, like I said, is important because you want to keep track of all that you are doing, all the information you need, right? At each time. So you know what you should be doing, what you don't have, what I need to get. Now, you can see that there are 2 sheets on this general sheet. So the template is this. Then we have research interest. Like I said, this was prepared with graduate school in mind, not undergraduate. So undergraduate, you might have research interest, but because you are starting fresh, right? this is like your first experience. You might not need too much research interest because you're going to be doing a lot of classes, a lot of learning. Now, research interest, like I said, if you had a bachelor's in architecture, what are the various fields in architecture, right? What are people trying to do in architecture in the world? Please don't look at Nigeria, right? What are people trying to do in architecture in the world? So maybe they are doing renewable housing, energy saving housing. You put it there under research interest. You list out all the research interests that interest you, that you like, that you can see yourself doing, maybe 4 or 5, right? But no more than 5, so that it's not that you're everywhere. Now, disciplines involved. Now, this is important because in the last webinar, Shegun and I spoke about, if you studied history, these are the programs you can apply to. So you don't have, if you study history, does not mean that you apply to history alone, because people apply based on research interest, not just program. So if I wanted to study maybe, for example, apples, how I can grow better apples, there might be somebody who is not in the Department of Agric, right? The person might be in maybe biology. So I don't have to apply to Agric to study what I want to study. I can apply to biology to work with that person. So you have to put in the various programs that have that research, that have somebody doing that research interest. So this helps you because you can now know which programs to apply to. So you don't have to limit yourself again that, I studied microbiology in the university. I only search the microbiology programs in all the universities I check. You could see that, biomedical science, biological sciences, and the others have maybe this research interest that I'm interested in, and I apply to that. So this way you have more options. And also, most schools, not all, but most schools allow you to apply to 2 programs at a time. Shegun can also maybe vouch, maybe as regards humanities. I don't know very much around that. But I know most schools in medicine and in sciences allow you to apply to 2 programs. I think 3, as much as 3. The application portal. So you have like your first choice, your second choice, and your third choice, or first and second choice. So I would start. So I said that the first university we'll be looking at. So I will start with the University of Pennsylvania. So let me enter that here. So this is what everybody will be doing. Sorry. So University of Pennsylvania, for example. University of Pennsylvania is in Philadelphia, right? So now, for course, let's say I studied architecture. So I'm going to use architecture first. Let's say I studied architecture. Now, I'm only entering architecture because I want to use this to help myself first, to find somewhere to start. Now I studied architecture. So I then go into Google and say University of Pennsylvania. Please notice that I'm doing this for graduate school, right? Not undergrad. But you can also do it for undergrad. So I open the website. Now, I can either check with academics or check with admission and aid. But I can start with academics. I click on graduate school. Brings this out, blah, 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 blah. I go to degree program. All schools always have degree programs. Now, you can decide to read the prospective student information, but go straight to degree programs to see what programs they have. Now, so looking at this now, you can see that there's accounting at bachelor's level, there's accounting at MBA level, and there's accounting at PhD level. So if I wanted to study accounting for bachelor's, I can open this. If I want to study accounting for MBA, I can open it. For PhD also, I can open this. Now, I came here looking for architecture, right? So I come here, architecture, so there's archaeology. So now I can see that there's architecture. Now, notice something very interesting here. And this is why I say you have to know what is happening in your field. There's architecture, which is a master's. There's architectural history, this is undergraduate. Now there's architecture, which is an educational master's, right? Now there's architecture, which is just a master's in science. There's architecture, which is a PhD in architecture. So you have a master's in architecture from Nigeria, you most likely want to apply to architecture PhD. Now there's architecture, advanced architectural design. I think this is a design master's. Now there's architecture design. This is in the arts, right? There's environmental building design. So for example, I wanted to study, I want to do architecture in the direction of renewable environments, blah, blah, blah. I most likely want to do environmental building design. There's architecture which is intensive design, right? And now there's architecture which is robotics and autonomous system. Now, when you see this, you know that this is not the normal architecture that you know. This is most likely computer architecture, right? Systems architecture, because this is robotics and autonomous designs. Let me open, so I've opened the one for bachelor's. So I go here for accounting. Now, I'll start with accounting, then I'll open, let me just have architecture open. So let me open architecture masters, let me open architecture PhD. Now, this is just a brief information, right, about it. So this is the curriculum, this is what you are taking. These are the courses you are taking. Now, these are the program milestones, right? So if I was trying to apply to the architecture program for PhD at the University of Pennsylvania, I already know that I'm going to take 2 language exams. I'm going to work as a teaching assistant. I'm going to take a preliminary exam. I'm going to take a qualifying exam. Qualifying exam is different from preliminary exam. Preliminary exam is usually your first year, like your first year exam, right? While qualifying exam is the one you take to become a PhD candidate. So for the first 2 years, you are called a PhD student, not a candidate yet. Then you take a qualifying exam to become a PhD candidate. Now, you can see that this still has not provided us information on what is needed to apply. Now, for some programs, you have like, when I show you in some other universities, you have like application requirements. But for Penn, for UPenn, you go to this, right? Admission info, application info, and it takes you to the website of that program. So you have courses, you have people, resources, student gallery, blah, blah, blah. So now, for example, you don't know what research is being done in architecture, but you study architecture in Nigeria, and you're trying to find out, okay, what are people doing? Research is a good place to start. This research tab, right? So you open that. So let me go there. So now see, these are the kind of research that people are doing in that university, in that program. Advanced Research Innovation Lab, collegial structures, autonomous marketing, blah, 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 blah. Now, if you have not kept yourself updated about what is happening in your field, most of this is going to look like Spanish to you, which is why I said you have to constantly update yourself. I am in microbiology, I'm in architecture, I'm in Yoruba, I'm in African languages, I'm in this. What is happening? What are people doing? What are people pursuing, right, in that field, right? Because you don't want to be stuck in something that people are no longer pursuing. Because if people are no longer doing research on a certain part of your field, best believe that there's no funding there. So if you are coming that, oh, I want to study this, and everybody has left it, except you have like one new idea, right? But most times people leave it when there's no longer funding. And so you don't want to go and say, okay, this is what I want to do, because you will not find anybody there, because there's no funding there. So most people have moved away from there. So this is just showing us like, if you need to like find out, what research is being done in this area. If, for example, you don't know what is happening, you can always look at this, what is happening? Then you go on your Google, what is happening in immersive kinematics, right? So that is for research. So then I go back here. So if I want to get information on the graduate coordinator for the program, I open contact. So this is the department. This is the acting chair of the program. Now, who I want to actually speak with is the student services and academic coordinator. So this is the person, Megan Smith. This is the person whose email and name you want to have. You can also have the acting chair, but most times it's usually the coordinator that would respond, right? That gives you information, not the HO, not the acting chair. So now we have that down. You go back to your sheet. Under academic coordinator, you enter the name Megan Smith and you enter her email. Please don't enter phone number. Please, I have to beg us, don't send that, don't call anybody. Use emails, right? People respond to emails. And I'll tell us also about how to work emails, like what time to send them. Since we're in Nigeria and we're like 5 hours ahead of us here, so send emails like 1 p.m., 2 p.m. your time, because that's like 8 a.m., 9 a.m. our time here, right? And one thing that everybody does in academia is that when they get to work, the first thing they do is to check their emails, right? And so if you send it early in the morning like that, 8 a.m., 9 a.m., it means that the first email is it's going to be among the first email they are going to see, right? So that's, but please don't call anybody, please. So I can click on people, right? I clicked on people to look at faculty. Now, so we have different kind of professors, unlike Nigeria where everybody's called professor, right? You still call these full professors, but we have associate professor. There are people who are full professors, right? So you see professor like this. Then you have people who are assistant professors. So it's just dependent on how early they are in their career and how far they have come. So like, for example, this is a full professor, Ali Rahim, right? Now, I want to see what he is doing. Sorry. So what I can do is to see what Ali Rahim is doing. There are some programs that allow you to search the faculty by research interest. So instead of me having to click on them one by one, there will be a tab here that says research interest, and I'll just click and it will show me the different research areas in that program, right? And then I click on whatever research interest I want to start with, or research field, and it shows me every faculty member that is working in that general research field. But this, like for example, architecture here does not have that. So I might have to go one by one, right? Yes, it might be stressful, but you want to actually do that. So I can say, okay, let me start with Ali Rahim, right? And I click on him. So remember I showed you a page for faculty on the sheet here, where we have faculty. So I can put his name, Dr. Ali Rahim. Now you want to put the name as it is spelled, so that when you're sending an email, you're not giving them the name that they don't have. You want to use the right name. So I can also put his email beside him. Copy that. Come back to the sheet. You can either open a new tab for emails and just say insert column left and say emails. And then I put his email there. So I have his email down. So I come back here. Blah, 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 blah. They give you a brief description of what he is and what he does. Then, now, we then come to work and research, right? So if you look at what Mr. Ali Rahim is doing, Dr. Ali Rahim is doing, based on his publications, we can see that he's working on design and manufacturing of architecture, right? Now, if we look at these are publications by him. If we look at this, so work and research. So if we click on this, we see that he is not in depth enough. So we'd have to take what he's doing from here. So if we look at what he has been doing, so his books, he has written books on catalytic formation, architecture and digital design. So he's mostly into architecture and digital design because this is most of what he's doing. So I come back here and put his research interest as architecture and digital design. Now we have various ways. So you could always use Google Scholars to check what he's been doing. So if I want to see maybe papers that he has written, I'll just take his name, Ali Rahim, open this, come to Google, Rahim, lecture, right? And I can see papers that he has written, sorry. So these are like papers he has written, elegance, contemporary. So you want to actually look for the most recent one, maybe since 2019. So this is the paper he wrote in 2020. So you could go through the most recent paper. So you don't have to go through all that he has written. Just go through the most recent paper, right? That way it helps you to understand. Because also I'd like to point out that somebody might be working on architectural design because sometimes the university website might not be updated and they have now moved to a different thing. But when you check their most recent paper, that will tell you where they are currently at, right? So you check the website, but you also check them out online. What papers are they publishing? In what direction is that paper? You understand? So now let me now show us how to check for admission requirements. So I can come here to degree programs. These are the various masters available, right? In this. So let's say I'm still using there's also a Bachelor of Arts. So let me use the PhD first, right? So now this is a brief description of the program and students research within two concentration, either history or technology of architecture, right? So now when they say graduate group faculty in architecture, so these are the people who are taking in PhD students, right? Graduate group faculty in architecture. So it means that most of the other faculty who are not listed here are most likely taking in masters and bachelors, most likely bachelors. So now admission process. Come here, click. Now I'm using architecture now. Like I said, websites are different, programs are different, right? Now, this is the first requirement. On this top side, you see the various programs, right? Up to PhD. And so, for example, if I'm applying to a PhD program in architecture, and it requires online application, it requires portfolio, which is your CV. So I'll come here, admission requirements, CV, put that. Sorry. Then I come here again, recommendation letters, 3 recommendation letters for everybody. So I'll have to come here, 3 letters of recommendations, right? Then personal statements and uploaded evaluations of transcript. So I come here, personal statement as PS, transcript. I come back again, research statement. It's only required for PhD. If I was applying to a master's, I don't need research statement, right? So I come here and say research statement. So research statement is basically a 1-page document talking about your research interest and your current research interest and also other research interests you are looking to do. You can also in a brief put a little bit about your research experience, but most time research statement is just mostly about your research interest. So I will put PhD so that I know that okay, it's only for PhD programs that they require research statement. Resume. Oh, sorry, let me take that back. So portfolio is like the work or the jobs you have done. So architects know this, right? If you have whatever jobs you have done as an architect, you could have like an online portfolio, like maybe a small website that shows the jobs you have done. While resume is your CV or the resume itself. Now you'll see that they require GRE for a master's in science, for architecture, and for PhD. So I will just put here portfolio, GRE required. So now if I was going to do a master's program, but I don't have a GRE for this architecture, I likely will not do the master's in archaeology, the master's of science in archaeology. So I might do the MArch, I might do the other ones, but I won't apply to that. Now you can see that all of them require English language proficiency test. But now it has an asterisk that says applies to international students. So that means whether you're Nigerian or whether you're Somalian, you must have an English language proficiency test, right? So I'll come here again and say English proficiency test required. So if I was applying to that program, I already know that I need to write TOEFL, IELTS, or Duolingo. So there are no prerequisites here. Then deadline. So deadline, if I was applying to a PhD, I know it's December 14th. If I was applying to Masters of Arts, January 4th. So I just come here because I'm applying to a PhD. I would say, I'll come here to deadline and say December 14th. Most likely the start date is likely August. I just put August. Now, application fee also, which is important. Don't miss this. Application fee, $80. So I come here and say app fee, $80. Now, one of the things about application fee is that some schools can waive it for you. Some schools. But for them to waive it for you, you have to send an email to the graduate coordinator. That's why I said it's important to know who the graduate coordinator is, right? If you have more questions, if you feel like you don't understand certain things about the application process, this is it. You can check through, right? So is there anything different for international students? So you go through the FAQs. So what you can do is copy the website for the FAQs down so that if you have like questions that you don't want to maybe send an email to the graduate coordinator. So you just come here and you put like FAQ site, ask questions, and you put that in here. And the program website also. So you could come back to home, right? Then the next thing I said when I was talking to us was then checking out students, right? So this is the FAQs. So I come back, so I could go here before you apply. These are the information, right, that you have. So for example, somebody here is still in school, you are not done, right? And maybe you're in your final year and you're graduating in January. Oh, can I still apply? This is answering your question, right? Do I need a background in architecture to apply? No. So maybe you're coming from physics or you're coming from something and you want to change careers. So this answers your question. Some of them will tell you definitely you need, right? Some will tell you you don't need. Now, another thing you want to check is financial aid. Now, do you offer financial aid for international students? Yes, international students are eligible for scholarships. Now I want to see what type of aids do they offer. So they said we offer scholarships to our students based on merit, right? Determined by faculty during the admission review process. So this means that we could go to scholarships also here. So now these are the master degree scholarships available, right? So you get to see that, okay, these are the scholarships available. Now, this is different from the tuition coverage that you'll be offered for like private school when you get admitted. So these are like other things you can apply to, right? So let me go back to the sheet, sorry. So program website, definitely put it in here. Let me put in the program website, go home. Next. Program website. So when I come here, that is here. Okay. So I've filled in this information. So I know that if I want to apply to this program, I have to start looking for these things, right? A CV, a letter of recommendations. I have to start contacting people, personal statements. Now, some schools have a breakdown of how they want your personal statement to be. But for this school, they did not explicitly say, okay, this is how we want our personal statement to be. But we can also go ahead and check again, right? So let me close this. So I go back to the FAQ website. Now, this is why I said you have to have the link here, but it helps you right now. I can come back to it and see. Okay, application process. Jerry. So it says now, do you require official transcript for this? So it says we only require official transcript or course by course evaluation if you are admitted and choose to enroll. So this means that for this program, you can use your unofficial transcript to apply, which it says here again, you may upload unofficial copies into your application. Then when you get admitted, you now have to send your official transcript, right? So you can go back here again and also add to this unofficial transcript. Now, this is where the caveat or where the advice I would give us is. When Bro Shegun was speaking to us, he spoke about like West, why West is important. So now, if I'm coming from a country or I'm coming from a university where we use 5.0, now the US uses 4.0, the grading system is different, right? So if I got a 60 or a 70, let me say a 70, for example, in Nigeria, that should be an A, right? But in the US, that is not even a B, that's like a C or C minus. Now, if somebody sees that on my unofficial transcript, they might not be able to weigh that, oh, I was doing well. They might say, oh, I barely managed, except that person understands the Nigerian system grading. Some graduate schools or some programs have somebody specifically who looks at that based on the fact that they understand the Nigerian system. But you don't want to take that risk, right? You don't want to take that risk. So if you can, do a West evaluation. But since this one says use unofficial copies, if you have very good grades, apply with your unofficial copy. But like I said, my advice is if you can, and time is on your side, do a West evaluation. It will help you in the long term, right? Because by the time you are admitted, you don't need to call your school and start bribing or paying them to send your transcript to the university, and then it takes time. You just use West. West will send the evaluated transcripts to them because West will also require your school to send them your own transcript. So it saves you time. Just imagine you're applying to 4 schools or 5 schools or 6 schools. So would you be sending or calling somebody in your university every time, or your college of education or your polytechnic every time you want to send to those 4 or 5 schools when you could just use West, right? Now, letters of recommendations, this is a description of it. And I submit more than, most schools allow you to submit as much as 4, but they take 3 important things. Also, are interviews required? So most schools, when they accept your application, which is the first stage, if you meet their requirement, you could be invited for an interview. So what most schools were doing for international students is that your interview will be on Zoom or Skype, or they call you. So faculty members will speak with you, ask you questions about your research interest, talk about your research interest. It's mostly conversational, not like a visa interview that's more strict, right? So they just want to gauge you as a person. In some schools, they will actually pay for you to come over, right? Because what happens during admission weekend is that people come to the university, they take them around the faculty, show them to different buildings, you understand? Then that's on Friday. Then on Saturday, you have your interviews. But international students, they might not be able to bring everybody over, so they do Zoom, right? Cannot apply to more than one program. So now I said that some schools allow you to apply to 2 programs or more. So this one, they have a dual program that you can apply to. So if you want to know when will you receive admission information on notifications, this is it. So it says, oh, I'll receive, it tells you when you should expect, right, to receive information on oh. Usually, if your application deadline ends on December 14th, most times between January, let me say mid-January and early March, you should be getting feedback on if you were accepted or if you have been invited for interview. Then some schools will tell you that you were placed on wait list. So maybe they are waiting for people to reject admission because some people get admitted to more than one school, right? And so they can't go to, there's only one school you go to in the end. You are admitted to 5 schools. So they have to wait for people to either accept or reject before they can take you in. Sorry, somebody, please. Please, let's try to keep our phones mute. So that's the University of Pennsylvania. So I would use the University of Pittsburgh to show us something in the STEM area. Then I will use Lehigh University to show us this same thing in the humanities. So I close this. And please, those who are applying to bachelor's program, please don't be bothered. Still show you something. So now, let's see. Now, if you notice that I only put in one faculty member, that was because I'm just showing us, right? So please and please look at 2 to 3 faculty members, not just one. Don't be bothered, oh, maybe they are talking to themselves and they say, oh, Shegun, did you get a mail from Shegun that you want to apply? Did you get a mail from this? That is not a problem. Just ensure that you don't email or have more than 3. Because even in your personal statement, the school will actually talk about faculty members that you're looking to work with, right? So you want to just keep it to 3 people. So it's not a problem if you are looking at 3 people, because one of them might be retiring or might not be taking students. So you use only one. So what happens to you if that person is retiring or is not taking students because it doesn't have some, right? But it's rare that the whole 3 of them will either be retiring or not taking students. So that's why 3 potential advisors. And then you put in the grad coordinator's name. So now the University of Pittsburgh, which is in the city of Pittsburgh. So please remember that because we are using schools in Pennsylvania, and this is to help people apply to schools in Pennsylvania, this is also applicable to schools in other states in the US. Like you can still use this process, but we were more focused on helping you apply to schools in Pennsylvania. So the University of Pittsburgh, let me just use Google, let me not go straight. So yes. So I go here. So University of Pittsburgh, which is University and Shegun at 10. So I can go to academics. Now, just like I showed us previously. Now, if you notice, it's a bit much more different than University of Pennsylvania in terms of the website, right? So you can either check based on the program, based on the faculty, or like faculty now in reference to College of Medicine, College of Dentistry, Faculty of Science, that's what I'm talking about. Or you do degree finder. So I'd rather do degree finder, or I can do academic programs A to Z. So I come here. So if I want to study accounting, they have If you want to study audiology, whatever I want to study. So I'm going to pick a program in the School of Medicine or in STEM. So I can do biological sciences, for example. Now, biological sciences, if we notice there's something interesting, so let me go to this and I say the course is biological sciences. Okay. Biological sciences. So I go back here. Already I can see that they have a bachelor's, a master's, and a PhD program here. I can see it clearly here. So if I wanted to apply to any of the three, I can go about that. Now, details and requirements. Because I said I was going to talk about this for undergraduates, I'll open it down somewhere. Then if I wanted to apply to master's there, open it down. If I wanted to apply to PhD, open it down. Now, this part where you see in person, right? It just means that it's not an online program. You have to be there physically, right? That was it just means, that's all. Now I can click on interest areas. This is just like a brief description of like areas where people are. So I'll come here. This is for undergraduates. So let me start with masters, for example. You want to apply to a master's program here. Now, the first thing you notice is that here, undergraduate, we have the MCDB program, E&E program, right? So these are the two units under biological sciences, right? So one is, I think E&E is ecology, then the other MCB is, I think, molecular biology and cell biology, right? So now what I want to do is, there's how to apply the financial support. Unlike University of Pennsylvania, where they didn't like have a tab for financial support. So each university has different ways of presenting their information, right? Now, I can open for how to apply, open for financial support. Now, this is it, a competitive stipend, right? This is how much they are paying graduate students. So 31,280, right? You also offer health insurance, then tuition waiver. So tuition waiver means that they are paying for your school fees. So you don't have to pay your school fees, right? Unlike maybe in the UK where you have to pay your school fees for masters. Then transportation. So they are telling you that with your ID card, with your school ID card, you can use whatever means of transport is offered in that city. Now, this is why I was talking about like things to look out for, right? When you are looking at the program. So some people state it clearly, some people state it in the frequently asked questions, and some universities literally have a page for that program. Now, we can go back to the how to apply. So I've looked at this, this is what they have. You can put it down in the sheet if you wanted to. Now, how to apply. So they are repeating students for this. Now, after 9 September. So this tells you already that the start date for application is 9th of September, not August, like some schools. So I can say September 9th, right? So I go back here again. Application end date is 2nd of December. Yeah, this is 2022, but it's always the same time for each year. If they change it, then they'll change it here also. So you go back, end date, December 2nd. I'll advise you to have your stuff sent in by December 1st if you are applying to the program. So the next thing I want to look at is what are the requirements. So firstly, they tell you that if you're applying to a PhD here, there are these two distinct programs, right? Molecular and cellular developmental biology or ecology and evolution. So for example, if I studied forestry or I studied something in ecology, maybe botany or something, I can also apply to this program, right? If I studied biochemistry, chemistry, and the others, I can still apply to this program. I'll be under the molecular and cellular developmental biology part of the program. So this is a brief description of how to apply. So now you select whatever that you're going under. Now, personal statement, right? Now, this is why I said that some schools tell you what they want to see in your personal statement. Here they say, show us that you should talk about your motivations and your research experience that have led you to want to either go for a PhD or for a master's. So this simply means that, like I said, personal statement is like, oh, what has happened in your life that has made you want to study this course or has made you want to go to graduate school. So you talk about that experience, maybe growing up in a certain community and learning that, okay, this community lacked this, but people who were able to have this were able to do better, or able to do this, right? Or maybe when you were interning, you learned something. You talk about that. Your research experience also is important. Whatever you did in your undergraduate for your project, don't overlook it. That's your first research experience. That's your first research experience. Don't overlook it. Even if you didn't publish it, the fact that you defended it and you submitted it, that is your first research experience, right? So personal statement, CV, okay. So I come here, I put requirements, under requirements. Please, whoever is on mute, please can you mute yourself? So personal statement, which I can just say PS. Your CV, copies of your transcript. Now, if you see here, they say unofficial transcript can be used. And official also, if you have official, because it says you can also use official transcript. So I will say unofficial transcript. But remember I said if you are using like a 5.0 CGPA or a 7.0 CGPA, then it's better to just have your transcript evaluated to save you time. Please can we stay muted? So now letters of recommendation. Then there's something important. It says GRE scores are not required. It says please do not submit. So already, if I have not written GRE or I have no plans to write GRE, then this is a school that I can apply to, right? Because I know GRE will not be a problem. So I will say no GRE, and then I'll say 3 letters of recommendation. Please, if you are not muted and you are distracting, you will kindly be removed. So please kindly stay muted so we can utilize the time. And also application fees, $75. But now, notice here that they offer application fee waivers, right? And then they tell you that the faculty who is reviewing your application will not know whether you were waived or not for application. So in case you are feeling, oh, now they are giving application fee waiver, this faculty might think, oh, maybe I'm not serious, I'm not paying for the application, and might want to use that against me, right? But they are telling that they would not inform the faculty that, oh, this person's application fee was waived, so that there's no prejudice against you in case that faculty was someone who was prejudiced, right? Now, the application fee is $75, right? So you say app fee, $75, right? Now, now it says international students are required to have a test of English, right? So TOEFL, so if you did your TOEFL already and you scored 90, you are good to go. If you scored less than 90, you may have to rewrite it. Then IELTS 7.0. So I can go back here and say TOEFL 90, IELTS 7.0. Right? Now, one thing about this English language application or English language requirement is that you can still always email the graduate coordinator, right? And ask them, oh, I'm from Nigeria. I was taught in English, blah, blah, blah. Will I still be required to, can I be waived? That's the word, sorry. Can my English language proficiency requirement be waived? So if they would waive you, they will tell you. If they won't waive you, they'll say, oh, please, you still need to like submit, right? And then you go ahead. So either write your English language test or not. So the next thing we want to look at is we already have information on the requirements. So we want to check faculty, and firstly, I want to look at the grad coordinator so that we have that information, who the grad coordinator is for this program. So that's usually found Okay. So go to people. Yeah. So this is just. So let me look at staff. So this lady called Mrs. Katiba. So this is the person who is the graduate coordinator for graduates, right? So graduate admission. If I was applying for bachelor's, right? This is the person I will speak to, Dr. Lauren Yaich, right? So I can just take her name, Katiba. So I come here. I'll put her email also. If I was applying as a bachelor's, I wanted to enter for the undergraduate program. So this is the person I want to do, Lauren Yaich. They have email also. Right? Now faculty website, this is just basically if you want to like have the faculty page at your fingertips, sorry. So I could just come here, copy that, and put it here. So maybe I want to go back and check the faculty. Now we have the information on the graduate coordinator who we need to email. And then the next thing I want to do is look at faculty available, right? So here, these are all the faculty members, right? That in that program. So you don't want to look at, if you're applying for a graduate program, right? You don't want to look at people who are teaching assistant professors because those people don't have labs or research groups. Now I'm talking to people in STEM, they don't have labs. So the kind of professors you want to look out for are assistant professors, associate professors, and full professors. So those people have funding and they have labs. If you see someone who is a research assistant professor or a research teaching professor, they don't have a lab yet. They don't have a lab of their own. So they're either attached to somebody. So such a person you don't want to work with. Because they can't actually take you in, they can't fund you. So just like I showed us previously, so I can look at Karen Ant. So I have her email, so I click on her, come here. Put in her email. So I go back to her, go back to the faculty list. I click on view profile. So University of Pennsylvania, it was clicking on the picture, right? So I click on view profile. So this is a description of her research, right? So she's interested in how organisms are able to interpret genomic information. So basically, most of our work is transcription, right? Transcriptional factors. So I can say transcriptional control. And like I showed you using Google Scholars, you can always go directly and check back at what she's been publishing. So now these are the current projects that are being done in the lab, mechanisms by which genes that do this and that. So you know, or you get to see what is being done in her lab. But I always advise that you still go back and use Google Scholars to check what she's currently doing, right? So I come here and put under her research interest, transcriptional control. That's what she's interested in. So you can then go back and do that for, that for the faculty individual. So now, another thing I told us then was also that we also want to see like graduate students, right? So let me see if I missed anything. So when we're checking the admission requirements, they didn't say anything about contacting faculty. But I always advise people to contact faculty members, and this is why. Reach out to them, send them an email that, okay, this is my research interest. I'm looking to apply to the program, and I would love to work with you. I find your research into so very interesting. You can also ask them if they would be chance to maybe have like a short Zoom conversation with you around research and grad school. As busy as all faculty members are, they can give you 30 minutes in a day. And if the conversation goes well, you can speak longer. Now, why am I saying this? That even if they don't say contact faculty, still reach out to them. Even if they tell you, oh, don't worry, you don't need to contact us. When you get admitted, we can talk. That's not a problem. But you're already in that person's mind. Because some of those faculty members are part of the admission committee, right? And what happens is like when they are reviewing applications, because I have spoken to this person about my research interest, when they are saying, oh, Shegun, oh, this is Shegun from Nigeria, he has a bachelor's in this, has a master's in this, he's interested in this, who would like to work with him? Somebody will raise up their hand. Even if the person who I've been communicating with does not have a space for me, to say, oh, Dr. Felix, I think you should look at Shegun's application. He's quite an interesting candidate. He has done a lot. You understand? That's how it works, not sincerity. Right? So this is why I'm saying that we should still reach out to them because they can also give you advice. Don't think about it like our Nigerian professors that are so uptight. These ones are open to talking to you. And like I said, look to send your emails between 1 p.m. Nigerian time and 2 p.m. Nigerian time. Right? And also, we're moving into the fall season. So most professors are coming back from holidays. So if you have previously been sending emails and you have not responded to you, might be how you worded the email or the person is on holiday. And also sometimes don't feel bad if nobody responds. Doesn't mean you should not still apply to that school. So we have gotten all the information we need apart from the program website, so which I can then come here, find about the sciences, copy this, come back here. They also have an FAQ website, which I can go here. So these are the different programs under it, or different research areas. So for example, I'm interested in microbiology. I can come here and click. So if you don't want to go through the long route that I showed you, whereby you go to faculty and you start looking at each faculty. If I'm interested in microbiology only, so I just go to like research here and click on one of them. And in doing that, I see every faculty member that is doing something microbiology related. And then you can now click on view profile. So you can see that they are putting their research interest, host pathogen interactions. But it's important to click on view profile because the host pathogen interactions that this person might be doing might be viruses and human beings. This person might be bacteria, this person might be fungi. They are still pathogens, right? But you want to be zeroing in on the right thing, right? And even the host might not be human host, it might be fish, it might be chicken. So you want to be sure of what that person is doing. So if you are coming from a computational background, you might look at who is doing something computational, right? So you see that this person is also doing something computational and also doing something in microbiology. So if I was someone in microbiology, I could still apply to her. I could still reach out to her, work with her. If I'm someone who is coming from computer science or something in bioinformatics, I can still work with her. And you can check the various research areas and then find people who fit, like you see all the faculty who are doing something in that place, right? So I would then round up on the University of Pittsburgh as regards undergraduates. Now, this is the undergraduate page. So usually in undergraduate, what you have is you have a major and a minor. So unlike in Nigeria where you are doing just one program, right? So if you are admitted for philosophy, just philosophy you are doing. But here you have the opportunity in the US to actually graduate to 2 courses. So a major and a minor. So if I'm doing philosophy and a minor in music or something in sciences. So that way, if I want to now apply if I want to now move from maybe the arts to sciences, I can, because I've taken courses in the sciences also alongside my music or my arts course. Okay. So for undergraduates, what you do is you go to prospective students. You could start with overview, but you go to prospective students. And this is just a description of all that these people had to go to. Sorry. And so to apply, so first we can check out what the majors are. So what majors are available? So there's biological sciences major. You can click on it to see what they do. There's biochemistry major. If it's biochemistry you want to study, there's computational biology, sorry. There's ecology and evolution. There's microbiology. There's molecular biology, right? So these are like, if you're applying as an undergraduate, these are the various majors that are available for you to apply to, right? So if you probably don't understand like what the majors are, so here you would see what it means to declare a major, right? To or apply for a major. Now, one thing about the undergraduate is that unlike the master's or the bachelor PhD, that is more straightforward in terms of how to apply, right? One way to help yourself is you can see here where you have advising. So you see recommendation letter, resume, and all that. What you can do to save yourself all the stress, right, is to go back to your sheet, because you have gotten the name of the person who is in charge of the undergraduate application. You send like Dr. Lauren Yash, for example, a message. Oh, hi, my name is Daniel. I just finished college. I just finished high school or secondary school in Nigeria. I'm looking to apply to the University of Pittsburgh to major in biochemistry. I would like to know what would be the requirements for me as an international student to apply. And they would always send you that information, right? Or they'll say, go to this page. They'll send you a link. Okay, this is the page where you can get all the information. Like I said, please don't be afraid to ask for any information that you don't have or that you need. And that is why it's important to know who the graduate coordinator is, who the program coordinator is for that program. They are the ones who have all the information. And if you don't have, they will connect you with somebody who can provide a better information. So that is for the scientists. And then, so now we'll go to Lehigh University, which I think is Philadelphia also. So now, humanities, for example, so let me first use, let me go into the. So please, if you are wondering how I'm getting all these list of universities, we created a list of universities in the state of Pennsylvania. It's actually, and after this meeting, it will be shared again on the what's it called? It will be shared again on the Telegram page, just so that people who probably join much later could see it, right? So you go to Lehigh University again, just like we did previously, right? You go to academics, right? And then you can go to graduate studies, or I can go straight to the colleges, right? The College of Art and Science. Now, unlike in Nigeria, humanities and sciences are usually sometimes placed in the same college, right? So if I was applying to the graduate program, so this is our admissions. So I can click on admissions. Now, here already I can see that application starts September 15th. This is just a general overview, right, of the application information. So I come here, say September 15th. Sorry. So then the next thing is, so this is just a rough, here they have 2 letters of recommendation, but rather than do that, let's see the programs first, what the programs require, and see if all the programs actually require that. So go to graduates. Okay. So if, for example, you needed some information and you don't know how to go about that, it's always easy to use the form if you can reach out to anyone. So here, graduate studies, key components. So you explore the program, right? You see, okay. If you're doing a PhD, you look at the PhD programs, professional masters, certificate program. Maybe you're actually not interested in doing a PhD, you just want to do a certificate program, right? Which is like a diploma of some sorts. They have that also for this. So now, if you're doing economics, there's applied economics, applied mathematics, behavioral analysis, bioengineering. Remember that this is science and arts together, right? So you would see you would see the various programs, like chemistry, civil engineering, and you see the programs that are offering either a master's, a PhD, right? There's data science, there's counseling psychology, and all this. So I'm going to use something from the humanities, something that is humanity related. So let me use next. Let me use psychology, for example, which they have like a master's and a PhD. But let me look at the master's for psychology. So already this is the person I need to contact if I had a question. So right? So let's say I wanted to study psychology. That program administrator. So I could say doctor. So then I put in their email also. So I have that. So I want to also get the program website. Now, this is the psychology. So I could learn more about the program, go here, and when you open that, so now this is the psychology page, right, of the program. So I can copy that. Okay. So now, so graduate students, for example, sorry. So this program highlights. So prospective candidates. So here it says prospective candidates are encouraged to contact members of faculty with whom they'll be interested in working. Visit our website and send us. So already I know that if I was applying to psychology at Lehigh University, I'm required to contact faculty. So I would say yes. Right? So that means it's important that you contact the faculty. Now, this is a list of the faculty and the research they are doing. Right? And like I said earlier, you have to at least know a bit of what is happening in your field. Because if not, once you come here, all this will look like Spanish to you. And here they did you good by separating professors and associate professors. And like I said, you want to look at professors, associate professors, and assistant professors. Maybe adjunct professors, But professors emeritus, just like in Nigeria, they are old, they are retired, but they're just coming in to teach. So you don't want to use that. You don't want to apply to someone who's an emeritus professor, because they can leave at any time because they are very old. That's just they are very old and they leave at any time. So you don't want to be left hanging. So you could also look at areas of specialization, right? If you were trying to look at a specific area of specialization, to just see only faculty in that area. Sorry. So this here, they speak about the stipends that they are paying. If you wanted to understand more about financial coverage, right? So they speak about stipends that they are paying, which is 22,000. Full tuition waiver means that they are paying your fees, paying your tuition fees. You don't have to bother about that. Now, if you see someone say an annual 9-month stipend, this simply means that they are going to only cover you, that your stipend that you are going to get every month will be for fall and spring semester, right? We usually have 3 semesters, fall, spring, and summer. Now, it means that for summer, you are most likely either not taking a class or you are interning, but they are not going to pay you for summer. But now, they might help you in another way by providing you the teaching assistantship. So it means that for summer, you might get the opportunity to be teaching classes, right? Summer classes, they'll pay you for that. Or you can intern, or you can be a research assistant, or you have a fellowship, right? And here it says that fellowship, you get more for the fellowship. So this is just simply a description of like what you have to undergo while in the program. But now these are the areas of specialization. So they basically have 3 areas of specialization: social cognition and personality, social and cognitive development, and cognition and language. So if you are coming from psychology or you have a background in psychology and you wanted to study one of these areas, you already see the faculty member who are within that, and you can go ahead and then search them, right? Rather than using the general faculty page. Now, information about applying, which is where you now go to. So here, they only require 2 letters of application. Notice that the deadline is December 15th. And they give an information, so the deadline supersedes any deadline you find elsewhere, such as the faculty page, like College of Arts and Sciences page. That's why I told you that when it comes to application requirements, I always prefer to go with the program's requirement, because it's the program you are getting admitted to. And the program will always take cognizance of the graduate school's requirements and then build their own on that. So if you pass the program's requirements, you are going to pass the graduate school's requirements. So we know that their end date, it was applying to psychology. I have to get an application in on or before December 5th, right? Now, the next thing, the next thing is 2 letters of recommendation, a research statement. So I'll say instead of 3, so they're asking for 2. Research statement. Official transcripts, as clearly stated, official transcripts, application fee, and TOEFL scores for all international students. So this means that as a Nigerian, you are still required to have a TOEFL. So English language. So let me just put TOEFL. App fee, check now for us. Official transcripts. Now, official transcript, then they say GRE scores, right? But they said notice that GRE scores are not required for 2003 admissions. So this means that you can apply to this, but if someone was applying a year before, they will need to submit GRE scores. So GRE scores not required. And official transcript. So I would also like to advise us that wherever we see official transcripts, I will advise that you have your school send your transcript to West. Don't have your school send your transcript to the university. So have your school send a transcript to West so that it's evaluated. But if you come from a university where 4.0 is the CGPA, then you can have your university send your transcript to Lehigh University when you're applying, right? So it has to come from your university, not from you. You can't be the one to upload your share transcript. It is sent by your university. And that is why you have this information here that says transcript and any supplemental information, please mail to this. You're not the one to upload. Anything that is official is not for you to upload, right? It is sent by your university or by West. Now, this is Director of Graduate Studies, Departmental Coordinator. I would say take the information of the Director of Graduate Studies. Any of them can help you actually. So that's Valerie Taylor. So I come here. So Ahmad Humbach is already there. So I could also add Valerie Taylor. Yeah. Right? Faculty website. Still. Yeah. Now we have not looked at the potential supervisor. So I could do that, or potential advisor, sorry. I could look at this professor. So this is the research already, like this is even more plainly described. So I could take him. Professor Mark Bickard. This is his email. His research interest or research area. So he says he's working primarily in formal theoretical psychology with a focus on modeling, on the formal modeling of cognitive processes. So I could just say formal modeling. Yeah. So if you look here, his most recent publication here is 2009, but he definitely has more publications than that. So if I wanted to, so I was interested in reading what he has been doing more recently, I go to my Google Scholar and put his name in there. Psychology search. So you can see that he has been involved in papers for 2021, 20 and 2022 actually. So if you are going to, so that way you know what is his most recent publication and you can speak to him about it. I would like to advise also when you are looking at most recent publications, look at something where he's either the first author or the last author. Right? If it's in the middle, he most likely just contributed a little part to it. But if it's the first or the last author, then he played a key role in it, right? You understand? So you don't want to be speaking to him about a paper where he probably just only maybe help them to read it, like edit it or proofread it. That's not his research. He just collaborated on that. So we have filled in this information, then you go back, check any other faculty you're interested in, enter the information, and then you can do that for, I would advise people to do between 3 to 5 schools. Don't look at, because in the end, they only go to one school, but look at 3 to 5 schools and then fill out the information like this. Now, remember I told you about research interests and disciplines involved. So you also have to fill this, right? What your research interests are, your own research interests are, and which programs are taking them. So does it cut across psychology, counseling, whatever it is, you put them here also, right? and you will see that from your search. So let me stop sharing my screen, so that way I can take question. Okay. Hi, Shegun. So hi, Shegun.
Yeah, I'm still with you.
So if we have questions, we could ask, and then I'll answer the question. And Shegun will also like answer questions.
Okay. I think before we allow them to ask questions, one more thing that we may quickly need to run down is on the fact that some may send email and will not receive response. There are potential factors to it. Is either the lecturer is busy, or what is the subject of your email? If the subject of your email is not captivating, or it does not have some requirements, then you may not get a response. So having walking you through this process, and you want to get potential supervisor or researcher in your field, you need your CV and you need your transcript. And then you just need a very short statement on what you intend to do, why you believe that that researcher interest aligns with yours. Those things are very important. So I'll just share this very briefly. It's true that we have dropped the format on the page, but let me just share with you so that you just see what exactly I'm saying. Dan, can I share?
Yes, please. I think you're a co-host.
Yeah. So I just needed to ask for permission. Okay. Sorry, just 1 second. Okay. Dan, can you see what I'm sharing?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, thank you. So, for example, we've shared this on the page, samples of cold emails to professors. So, for example, you have researched a lecturer who ought to be your potential supervisor and is working on virus. So, your subject could be potential PhD students in virus research or researches in biology. And then you write, dear professor, please, this is not Africa. Be very careful of pronoun. So if possible, you can use the name of the professor all through. Try as much as possible. A professor is a male, but the pronoun may be female. So someone who is a male can be bearing she. The pronoun preferred can be they. So everyone has pronoun preference. And the moment you don't mention their pronoun preference, sometimes it gets them annoyed. So it's better you just keep everything neutral. Mention the person's name, or you just use you, so that you know you don't trample into their privacy. So for example, your subject is potential PhD students in virus research. Once a lecturer sees potential PhD students, one, you are creating a niche, and that's going to create an interest in that professor getting to know more about you, because they receive more emails every day. Some professors will tell us even what should be the subjects of our email when we are sending assignments. It's because they receive so many emails every day. So can just be as short as, oh, I am so from so university, this is my course, and this is my CGPA. I've researched you online, either through Google Scholar or ResearchGate or LinkedIn, and I've seen that you are working on this, and then this align with my own research interests. So I wouldn't mind if I can get in touch with you either through Zoom or any other available opportunity. Yes, the professor will be very happy to listen to you. Then you can now say, maybe for you to know further about me, I've attached my CV, my transcripts, okay, to this email. Yes, that is all. So with that one, you'll be able to, the lecturer will be able to know what exactly you are working on, and then your area of interest, and then what's the common ground that two of you are sharing. So we have different sample, this second sample, so that everybody don't use the same sample. And please, when you are sending to more than one research potential in the university, don't use the same templates. Don't use everything word for word. And try to change some of those things so that it doesn't become is copy and paste. So that is very important. That's all what I wanted to share. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sharon. That's very, very important. Like, even so, like Sharon said, like the header, like when I was applying, I always use the word prospective graduate student for my email header when I was applying, when I send emails to professors. And my PI, for example, right, my supervisor or advisor, for example, he does not like seeing too many emails. He deletes emails. Like immediately as you're entering, as he's looking at the email, he's deleting it. Not that he's like, I'm not talking about even student emails. I'm talking of like emails sent in by the government, by the NIH. He's deleting it. But he doesn't like seeing, like, his data doesn't like seeing, oh, he has 700 emails. So what usually happens that if he does not read it, like, he does not hold his gaze in the first 5 minutes, he's deleting it. Like, literally, we'll be in meetings and I'll be like, oh, our collaborator or NIH just sent you an email on the funding. And he's like, oh, he will then go back to his trash and not check it. That's his own kind, I'm sure that's his own peculiarity, right? So I'm just telling you that. And also keep your email, just like Shegun said, keep it brief, right? They have a short time. So you want to like get out all the information, who you are, what about you. So what did you study? What are your research interests, and how your own research interest ties into their research interests. Just like Shegun said, because that fit is important. You only pay for what, or fund what is in line with what you are doing, right? Because that's what they are receiving funding for. And somebody asked, oh, if you studied biochemistry and is interested in doing something in neuroscience, is it possible? Yes, it's possible, because biochemistry is a field, right? Just as the same way language is a field, linguistics is a field. But within that field, there are areas, right? And so biochemistry can apply to neuroscience, it can apply to neurobiology, it can apply to chemistry itself. So it's not a problem for you to now go to specific areas within that field, as long as you have a degree from that field, right? And like we spoke in the previous webinar, where Anne Shegun talked about that, oh, if you study biochemistry, if you study linguistics, you can apply to this place, can apply to this place in that field. And also if you have like some extra skills like computation, like I'm actually going to talk about that. If you have computational skills, you can apply to computational linguistics. Funny enough, if you have computational skills also, you can also apply to medical statistics too. You can apply to computational biology, right? Because you might not have done like study computational biology in your undergraduate, but because you have computational skills, and when I say computational skills, it should be licensed. So you have like a certificate for it, either from Udemy, EDX, whatever, wherever you studied it, have a certificate for it, right? That shows that you've not just learned it on your own, but you were certified for it. So that helps you, right? That gives you gives you more grace for the application. But please, if you studied a certain program and you're interested in, that's why I said you also have to be aware of what is happening in your field. So if I'm into linguistics and I'm aware that, oh, currently the field is moving towards computational, most people, there's this interesting thing in computational, there's this stuff, and I find it interesting, then it means that I can apply to it. If I go to a university website and I see only computational linguistics, I don't have to turn back and say, oh, I'm canceling it out. I can apply to that program. So it means that I will just go in and look at, okay, what is required. So Ayoade asks the question that it says, what is the difference between M.Arch and MSc Archaeology? So what happens is that M.Arch is usually a master's in arts in archaeology, while MSc Archaeology is a master's in science and archaeology. So what this simply means is that it's a description of the kind of research you'll be doing. So if I'm an M.Arch, I'll most likely, there's something they call a capstone. That's what you'll be doing in the end, like kind of like a thesis, right? You might not do like lab work or like bench work kind of research, but MSc archaeology, you likely do like a kind of like an experimental kind of research, right? Because it's a master's in science, not a master's in. Now, you asked the question about engineering, so MSc civil engineering and MSc and M.Eng civil engineering. Now, the M.Eng civil engineering is of someone who probably is an engineer who has a B.Tech or B engineering, and you want to keep on in that field of engineering. So it is more experimental. It is more like whatever engineering is, it's more focused on that hands-on experience, right? But MSc civil engineering, you are looking more at the science behind it. So the processes you are going to be doing are more science oriented. So the idea behind it, you might not be doing more of like the building of something or setting up of a system. So MSc civil engineering might be more of modeling. So you are modeling certain ideas. While for M.Eng civil engineering, you're actually not just modeling, but you're actually doing the physical stuff itself. So maybe you're building up a system for a certain idea or a solution that you're trying to profile. And the curricula will also be different. So you might take the same general courses, but there'll be specific courses that will be different, right? It's just like somebody who did B.Tech microbiology in FUTA and me that I did BSc microbiology in UI. Firstly, one person did it for 5 years, another person, I'm doing it for 4 years. I'm also going to be taking they're going to be taking some courses that I'm not going to take. Maybe they will take biotechnology. It's still the same microbiology you are doing, but that person might take a biotechnology course that I did not take, right? So it's also like the course outline also. The curricula will definitely be different. So it says, please, how do you get to know schools that are R1 schools? It's simple. Just enter into Google, list of R1 schools in the US. It comes out. It gives you out, right? It gives you a list of R1 schools in each state. A good website to use is, okay, Sheldon has something.
Yeah, let me say something about the R1. We need to be very careful because the least school in the US is better than the best school in Nigeria.
True.
In fact, let me even say in Africa generally. If, for example, your portfolio is not the best, because one of the challenges we have with R1 is that the competition is going to be very high, and then the admission requirement is going to be very crazy. So, for example, it's true that R1 schools, R2 schools have funding, and most of the schools we have shared on the group are on R1, R2. But we also looked at the funding opportunity. So either you're on R1, you're on R2. What is important is you get admitted, and then your admission has funding. That is what is most important. So forget about either it is R1. Some, for example, in their CV, they don't even have much, they don't have publication, they don't have so many things that could attract someone or a research potential. And then you are targeting a very core R1 when you have someone else from different part of the world and then they have better portfolio. They will of course consider such thing because everything is merit. It's not you are from so land or so many other things. So I think that's the comment I want to make on the issue of R1 and R2. Get admitted, see those schools we have posted on the group, and then just as Dan has already walked you through, go after each of those schools, document those things, and then apply. Get admitted, and then funding. That is what you need.
So I just want to add to what Shegun said. So I saw a question here where someone said she has a HND in microbiology, but wants to switch to nursing. And like I said, it's a very good, it's an easy switch because you're coming from the science background. But you also have to remember that nursing is diverse, even in Nigeria, right? Nursing is diverse. So you have nursing science, right? Where people study for bachelor's, master's, and PhD. Then there's nursing where you go to nursing school to have your RNs. I don't know what the others are called, RNM or whatever. So you have to firstly be sure which one you want to do. Are you going for like the teaching itself, right? The educational part of it where you do nursing science, or you want to practice as a nurse? There are two different things. So you have to look at that, and then you check the program website for either nursing science or for nursing itself. Nursing science is going from nursing. So I want to just point that out. So just check that. You see the information you need. But if you have a HND in microbiology, it's not a problem. You can actually transition. Someone asked, okay, that I got an admission to study MSc chemistry in Western Illinois University. I need to travel. Transferring. So the person got an admission to study a master's in chemistry, but wants to transfer to another school for a PhD in chemistry. So it takes. It's quite a process. I would say that it's quite a process. It's quite a process because you also have to like get that, because they are going to have to change your I-20 to that other school, and it's a lot. So, but what I would advise you to do is do your masters. Your family can actually come with you for your masters. There's no limit, because especially if your masters is funded. If your masters is funded, your family can come with you. I guess the masters is 2 years, right? Not 1 year. It's likely to be 2 years. Your masters is 2 years. Use that 2 years to build yourself in that your program of chemistry, right? Study, do your publications, take every opportunity you have to like get yourself properly known, right? And by the time you finish your first year, by the time you are going towards the second year, because you are going to do a thesis for that your 2 years master, you can start applying to PhD programs, and it will be much easier for you because you have done a master's in the US, right? And you're in the US also. So it makes it much easier for you to get into PhD programs because you are within the US already. So I would say, don't think about transferring first. Work on going for that master's as long as it's funded. If it was not funded, I would not say okay. But if it's funded, settle yourself in, do your best work, and then you can, before your program ends, you can apply. You can already start reaching out to professors that you are about to complete a master's in Western Illinois University. I'm currently working on this research, and I'm looking to do a PhD, and it works so perfect, right? Okay, Sheldon has something to say. Sorry.
Thank you, Danny. Let me please say something about recommendation. Dan mentioned it during the process. Not every lecturer, in fact, let me say categorically, if not up to 90% of Nigerian lecturers don't know how to write a recommendation letter for universities in the US to get admitted and funded. So what some of them will suggest to you is that draft a recommendation letter that you want, and then they will just patch it. For example, somebody writing a letter and is writing, is good, is that, no, who cares? No, either you are good or bad, it doesn't concern anybody. We are looking at your profile. So you may need to check online. Maybe we'll help you to drop just one template, but you need to check online and see template of academic recommendation letter. Maybe you check on Google, you will see, so that you can prepare one, send it to a lecturer that you want, maybe that you have already discussed with, because some of them will actually ask you to send one. Please don't assume that that lecturer knows how to write a recommendation letter. Someone still narrated his experience with me a few months ago, how he missed an admission because of recommender's negligence. He didn't write what was, even though the guy has a lot of potential, a lot of profiles, but lecturer was just writing a casual one, maybe the one like from the church and so on. And then the person needs the admission because your profile is built up also through your recommendation letter. That's why we need a lecturer who has supervised you, and then at least one of the lecturers that has taught you in the field of where you are. Those things will really help to boost your chances. So thank you very much, Dan.
So I just want to even follow up on what Sheldon said. So someone said something about like their supervisor being late. So that is why that is like a sad experience, right? That was someone passing. But you also have to remember that during your program, either master's or bachelor's, it was not only your supervisor that you came in contact with. You have other lecturers. It's literally impossible for you to be there. There's only one person you were talking to. That's your supervisor only. Lecturers that took you courses, right? Like you should have a relationship with at least one or two people in your program, right? So it's very impossible that you only have one person. So there must be somebody you can reach out to, right? So reach out to that person, have that person write for you. Now, why we say it has to be your supervisor, it doesn't mean that when they are reading your recommendation letter, they'll look for the person that said I was the supervisor. No, but because your supervisor can speak more specifically to your research ability than you as a person. Now, this is also not hard if your supervisor has passed. If you have another person who is a faculty member, they can also speak to your ability as a student and as an individual, right? Which are the two important things. So speaking that, oh, this is who Shegun is as a person, and this is who Shegun is as a researcher or as a student. So don't let that be a problem for you. Simply reach out to other lecturers in your department, right? Those who you can trust that can write something for you. And like Shegun said, like it's very important. If you see some of the recommendation letters that are written for students from Asia and other parts, in all sincerity, if you could admit them, you admit them. So I'm just saying, like it plays a huge role, maybe 30% or more. Right? It plays a very huge. Like I said, because they will never meet you until you are either called for an interview or you are admitted. So the first introduction they will get is your statement of purpose and that recommendation letter. And I believe they even read the recommendation letter before they read your statement of purpose. So that's the first thing that tells them everything about Joel, about Daniel, about Victor, about Adedayo, about Ife. That's the recommendation letter that firstly introduces you as a person and as a student there, even before your transcript. Because you might not have like amazing scores on your transcript, but situations happen. But your recommendation letter speaks to you as a person because your application process is a holistic process, right? It's not just your transcript alone. Your transcript is a part of it. Your recommendation letter, your statement of purpose. They want to see who you are, not just in academics, but as a person. Can you handle pressure? Are you innovative? Are you creative? Are you committed? That you have a first class or you have a 2-2 or a 2-1 is not a total description of your commitment, right? To your work. You can have cruised through because those are based on exams, right? Those are based on exams. Your scores are based on exams, but they're not also based on how you are as a person or as a researcher. But your recommendation letter covers that gap, tells them, okay, this is how this person is as a researcher or in the lab or as a writer, whatever. So it's very important. I'll hand it back to Shegun while I look at further questions. So okay, Shegun, maybe you can another question. Someone says, what is the importance of your recommender being a professor, doctor, or junior lecturer? They don't know that one. All of them are the same.
Yeah, all of them are the same. Like in Nigeria, when you mention senior lecturer, here is more or less like an associate professor. So regardless, once the person has PhD, for example, even without PhD, what is most important is that the person is a lecturer in that school. And then, because sometimes what some of those lecturers do here, when you mention someone's name as a recommender, they go online and check, oh, has the person published at all? So what is the profile of such individual? And that's why sometimes you may not be able to decide that fate because the person has already supervised you. But what you can decide is what other portfolio do you have that can remedize such a situation. Some lecturers are in Nigeria and they have not even published at all. So some are even published and they are published in some journals that they are not even known anywhere. It's not compulsory that it must be international journal. But what we are saying in essence is that there are some journals that are predatory and they are just, maybe they just put their name, just add my name there. So maybe that's how they have been building their profile. But forget about the profile of your lecturer. Build your own profile. So what do you have in your CV? What do you have in your statement of purpose? So those ones are not going to be determined by whoever that has taught you in the past. So you decide on those ones. So with that one, you can build the gap. Yeah.
I also like to add to what Shegun said that the most bad thing is that whatever they have published is indexed, right? So if you are in the sciences or in medicine, PubMed index, or at least Google Scholar index, right? And one of the strongest recommendation letters I received in all my graduate school applications was from a mister. The person is a PhD holder now, doing his postdoc in the US, but he was a mister. That's why, like Shegun said, the first thing is the person's writing, how well the person is writing, right? Then the person also indexed, the person visible. Not like when they type the person's name, Google, his Facebook and Instagram that is showing. Like it has to be that the person has done some work, right? Because the person is also speaking as an authority, right? So that's also important. And I just want to add that if you studied med lab science or BMLS or the laboratory sciences, please, that does not mean that you have to come to the US and study lab science. There are some schools that offer medical laboratory science programs, but I don't know of at the PhD level or graduate level, maybe bachelor's level. The fact that you studied med lab science is a good hands-on experience for you to apply to similar programs, microbiology, biomedical science, whatever you want to apply to. So don't go with that mindset that, oh, I have to look for med lab science. Because remember, in your med lab science, you have a specialization, right? Microbiology, histology, whatever it is. And so for that reason, also look broadly. The good thing that med lab science gives you is that it gives you a hands-on experience. So you can then apply to various programs. So don't just have a Nigerian mindset and look for that. Shegun.
Okay, thank you. I want to quickly attend to two issues. First is on nursing. I know almost everyone on this platform wants to go for nursing. We are sharing this information with you for you to look at programs with funding. It's different from the cases in Nigeria. What is most important is funding. You can get nursing program. Your father can even be the richest man in Nigeria, and you're not going to, your visa will not be approved. Forget about either they are going to give you funding or not. Nursing, there are a lot of visa ban, especially from Nigeria. You don't even want, even if you're on F2, you already have somebody here, and you are coming and they know that you're already a nurse, your visa will not be approved. So there are a lot of things to it. Look for other opportunities. When you cross over here, it is easier for you to change your course and then go for whatever nursing program you want to go for. What makes your visa approved is that you are able to get a fully funded program in the US. That builds your chances of getting your visa approved higher. Someone can get admission, you can get funding. VO can decide to deny your visa. It's not like UK, it's not like Australia, it's not like Canada. You can decide to deny your visa and there is nothing you can do. Even if the school writes to the VO, it will not get there. So get everything that you need and then get admitted, get funded. And then when you come over, you can change. Then from Toby Fumi Babarinde, yes, University of Pittsburgh actually had something like a common app. I don't know for every department. I know it happened to my department, linguistics. Once you go to the university portal and then you click apply, then it links you up with the common app for it. Just fill the common app, every detail, fill everything. Is the common app they will use to transmit all your credentials to the departments. So that one is that. Then concerning building your CV, we have already mentioned how you can build your CV. You don't need any app to build any CV. The CV has to be very short. CV is different from resume. We just need 2 pages, 3 pages of your CV. We have shared it, the link to what are the major things you need in your CV already, and that one is not for today. Yes. Dan, I don't know if someone is asking if nursing has funding for international students. That's why we are showing you all these things. We are not the one to begin to imagine that we are 1,000 plus or 700 on that group, and we want to begin to search for all this. So when do you think we are going to have time for our own research? We are showing you all this. Go and search yourself. If you have set a school and then there is funding for nursing in that department for international school, then you are the one to apply. Yes, we are the one to do that role. We are not the one to search. That's why we have helped you to compile those universities and then just search one after the other, and then you know the one with funding or otherwise. Yeah, back to that.
So just like Shegun said, right? So gathering the information is going to be like, it's one of the biggest part of it. And that part of what we can do is show you how to go about it. And then you have to then go for the heavy lift, right? That's why we are not saying that we're an agency or anything that says, oh, let's help you get into study nursing, let's help you get into study medicine, let's help you get into study linguistics. What we can do is show you how you can go about the application, help you vet application materials when you have them prepared, right? And then you can apply. But the work is still on you to go in and just the same way I was showing you how to check programs, right? You go in, you check the nursing program. What does the nursing program require you to do? The international student, what do you need to submit to apply, right? Because anything we tell you, we are not in nursing, right? Checking is in linguistics, I'm in integrated system biology, but in different fields. So we cannot speak to you as nursing as if you are going to check the website, right? So please do take our time, check. If you have issues as you are checking, the video will be shared. If that's not good enough, you can send messages and we can try to answer it to the best of our ability. But a lot of the heavy lifting will be done by you. What we can only do is provide a framework, provide like, okay, this is how you can approach it. This is how you can go about it. This is how you can go about searching to get information, because information is hiding. And once you do that, right, then where we need to vet matters, oh, the nursing science that requires you to send me this to do this. Even if we don't have the information on that, we can inquire on that, okay, this is how you get your transcript for whatever the nursing science has for you to send. This is how, this is what you need to change about your CV. This is what you need to change about your personal statement that is required by the nursing science program. That is the part that we can play to guide you. But we cannot literally, we can't bring it, okay, this is a breakdown of how nursing science is, how you apply. Sorry, Shelby. I think you're muted.
Thank you very much for that observation. Let me quickly add, especially for those who want to apply for PhD. For if you are in linguistics specifically, it may be advised that you have a mini PhD proposal. Your proposal may not eventually be what you are going to do when you resume your PhD program, but you just need to have a template of what you are going to do. Like, for example, I think last year thereabouts, a lecturer was interested in accepting many students. And at the time, he told them that they should write a PhD proposal. Proposal should be compelling. And then once it's not in the line of the lecturer, then you may not be able to get accepted. But if your proposal is very short, maybe like 2 pages, and then you're able to write introduction, what's the research gap, your research gap you want to fill, then how do you think method is going to be? You don't need to add how your analysis is going to be. So once that one is polished, panabited, the lecturer that accepted you into the program based on your research proposal has that in mind. So while you are working in your program, is looking up onto you for whatever you are promised to do. So that sometimes is very important. Especially, some of them will even tell you when you send a message to them, oh, can we have a very short Zoom call, like maybe 30 minutes? And this same thing they want to ask you. So what do you think you want to do? I remember one of them asked me that time in another university, oh, when you call me, what do you want to do? And the guy was like, oh, yeah, that's what you have in mind. That's good. But when you come in after your first or second year, you may decide either you're going to change or not, but at least have something in mind. So that's very important. Dan, you are muted, Dan.
When you talk about, thank you, when you talk about your research experience, right? Which is what you are talking about in terms of your research work. The first thing they want to see is your ability as a researcher, right? Your ability to do research and to communicate research. Before they now look at, oh, is it in biochemistry where this lecturer is or is different, right? Because irrespective of whatever programs you have, except you are coming from like English and you are going to medicine, which are like so far apart. But if you are seeing the same STEM or in same humanities, they will just want to see firstly how you are as a researcher, because those skills are transferable, whether you like it, they are transferable. It's just maybe different tools, but the skills are transferable. So that's what they want to see. But if it's maybe still within the same sciences, then it's not a problem. If the same humanities, it's not a problem. Like I said, they are transferable. You just need to show that, because when you speak to professors, you see how passionate they are about them. So they want to see how passionate you are about your work and how you can explain it. Communication is important. How well can you communicate your work, right? And that's why Shegun was talking about like the proposal part. Because when you're writing a proposal, you are talking about why it is important to do this work. How am I going to go about doing it? And then maybe prospective results, even without carrying that, okay, like your hypothesis, this is what I think might come out. So that's down to communication. A link will also be, as part of the information that will be shared on Telegram, a link will be shared also for a form. I'm also going to share it here, but it will also be shared on Telegram. So I would share it here. So we're trying to collect certain information, so just like people have been asking, so we can know where people are in different phases of the application and how we can help them move forward with that. So I've dropped the link in the chat. I'll allow Shegun to close out.
We still want to find out if you still have one or two questions so that we are rounding up very soon. But if you have a question, I guess at this point you can just unmute yourself, or sorry, indicate, then we'll call your name. Thereafter, you can ask your question. You have to be very fast. We will not take much longer again. Yeah, while we are waiting for people to ask questions, please do not forget that you need passports. To leave Nigeria, you need your international passports. And in some states, it can take longer. So if you have the mind of traveling, and then by faith, you can also go ahead and process your international passport, so that it doesn't become when you have been admitted and what is delaying you is the passport to leave Nigeria. Yeah, and if you know, maybe you have a passport, but your passport will soon expire in the next 1 or 2 years, or please go and verify to be sure that your NIN that you have, everything tallies with your international passport details. You can find out that at the passport office, so that before you travel, everything is sorted out. If not, when you travel out of Nigeria and you want to renew your passport, it's going to be a lot of things. So let's quickly know if we have 1 or 2 questions. And if not, it shows that everyone understood what we have done so far. And questions that have been attended to on this group, on this area, will not be attended to on the group chat again. Everyone has time. And we need to just begin to take some proactive stage and steps so that we don't just begin to go at all time back and forth without making a lot of progress. And especially for those who are going to fill the form, Google form, attention will be paid to you much more, so that there we are going to know the effort you are playing. Because if you are thinking that we are going to be the one to do everything for you, it's not going to work out. I did it myself. He did it by himself. At the time when I even involved an agent before I did it myself, I was doomed. So that's why we are showing you every process. You can do it yourself. Yeah, I hand over back to Dan.
So someone asked a question about what if there's need for one to conduct field work outside the US? Does the funding cover that? Yes, it does. As long as you're a student that has been admitted, it does, because your supervisor will have what you call a grant, right? So they would fund. I have friends who, like, for example, in Indiana State, Harvard, and other places, even Pittsburgh. I have a friend in the University of Pittsburgh, he's in music. He's doing a PhD in music, and he got a grant to go and have like a music program in Nigeria. He's currently back in Nigeria now, and he should be back maybe in September to the US. So you'll be funded, right, for that. That's not a problem. So they are funding for that. But you have to have been admitted into the program for that. So then also I wanted to add something to what Shegun said. Please, if your name, for example, is King Ibileye, let that be what is on all your documents. So your international passport, your certificates, please let it not be that one is King Daniel Ibileye, the other one is King Ibileye. Sorry that I'm using it, I'm just an example. Let there be uniformity in your documentation, because you know you're going to upload most of these documents for your application, right? Let there be uniformity. So what I usually advise is that whatever is, if you have an international passport, let that be names that are across your documentation. Females, married women who have done change of name. I believe your documents, except you have not changed your document, but if you have not changed your document, like your certificates and all that, then you are applying with that name. I believe Shegun can answer that.
Okay, that one depends. Number one, if you are married and you are a woman, then the name you have on your passport, let it still be the same name we will be using. When you are filling your form, you are going to ask, have you ever changed your name? But let it be that the official name you have on your documents are what you are still using to apply. So then when you are doing, once you have been accepted, then you can write a letter to them and they know how to go about it, so that it's not going to affect you when you are leaving the country. Maybe you even have a child and then the name of your child is even different from, the surname is even different from yours. VO will not allow you to take those children out of Nigeria. The visa will be denied and you will not be told the exact reason why it is denied. But at that time, there's another thing you do. Once you just do a change of name or your NIN, so when you are applying for the visa, so there's a place you will need to fill the surname, which will be different from your application. So for your application, still use your official name that you have on your documents, as long as those names have not changed. Somebody is asking, what courses can a linguist apply for? Yeah, we considered that one last time that we met, and I don't think we need to go into that, because once I go into it now, someone else from another field will begin to ask. You can even go to Google, what program can a linguist offer or be offered in the US? You will see different programs. Don't limit yourself. Whatever program you have done in your undergraduate, whatever course, is what you can do in your master's or PhD. Just make sure that you have a good score. Let's say, for example, you say you want to do phonology as a linguist, and then during your undergraduate or during your master's, in your transcript, your phonology, you manage to have C, and that means you are not going to be considered. So it must be that the course, the program you want to do, in that course that you have done before, you had a very strong results. That's what can motivate them that, oh, this person can transmit this. If you manage to have B or C in Nigeria, definitely it's going to be, if anything, is minus F here. Because if 70, which is A in Nigeria, is not even A here, it's minus C. And then before you can say you pass a course as a PhD student, you must have at least B minus. And then B minus is 80 and above. That's around 85, depending on your department. So that is that.
And also that was why we spoke about, for graduate school now, like Shegun said, that's why we spoke about that. It's more about research interest, right? Research area. So like Shegun said, phonology, for example, if you were interested in phonology, you would have to look at your interest, like your your transcript has to show that, okay, you were good in that area, you did very well, right? And also every other thing, maybe you have a publication on it or you have done something on it, is important, right? So always look at research areas and research interests. That will allow you to, like, in terms of the application, be more broader rather than restricted. So your bachelor's degree is only to help you provide a background, a foundation for you to apply, right? So be more research interest, research area oriented than just programs. Because there are some research areas that are not in a certain program that you think they might, right? So when you searching through the all programs, you get to see that, okay, this research area that I'm interested in this program, apply to it. I think Olushola raised up his hand. So I will just answer. Okay, sure, another. So I just want to take two more questions on that.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Thank you,
Mr.
sir.
Olushola.
Thank you for the enlightenment and the good job you have been doing since. My question is still on the issue of the arrangement.
Hi, Olushola, we can't hear you. I think you broke up.
So if you are
Yeah, Olushola, the network of where you are, the network bound is very weak. We can't still hear you. We are still struggling to hear what you are saying. So while we are trying to get the network fixed for him, or why he try to fix where he is, for the US program, it's not every time that you can get any other source apart from GA, TA, RA. It varies across the schools. For example, I remember I applied to a school and I was given some part of the funding. I think half of the money I needed for the as a cost of attendance. And then the school told me to apply for RA or GA. So that's why what happened in that school was, depending on the profile you have, after you have been given the admission, the school has some other scholarship body, and then they can submit your name to those bodies, and then the bodies can give you, award you some amount of money. So that one is different. Here in the Pittsburgh also, we have similar things. What they did, for example, if you already have masters and you have a good result, in your first year, they may give you fellowship. You're not going to work for any lecturer. So you just take one extra course, and then they will give you almost every finance you need, even sponsor your project, what is it called, your conferences and so on. So technically in the US, I would say in almost 95% of the schools, there is no other funding apart from GA. Every funding is going to come in form of GA, TA, or RA, that, or TF, which is teaching fellow, or graduate student research. So those are the things we have in the US, not like UK is different. So that's why when you have been admitted and you have a good, strong portfolio, the school will also give you any of these positions. And then like Pittsburgh, they will tell you that once you're admitted at the beginning and then you're able to get any of these positions for your 5 years program or 7 years, your funding is guaranteed as long as you meet up with the what's it called, academic requirements, which is telling you about GPA you have to maintain throughout your program. While we are still waiting for Olushola when it comes up, can we just have Ugochi
Obilo.
Yes, sir. Please, can you hear me?
loud and clear?
Okay. So I listened to your instruction concerning change of name. But as you can see, my name now is changed. It has is a compound name. And this happened after my marriage. So it's not appearing like that in my first degree. I've done master's, it's not appearing like that in my MSc degree. So now I have change of name, newspaper publication, I have affidavit. So I don't know if I should continue with this or I should still hold on to my former name in my applications. Meanwhile, my international passport is having this and my name is having the current name.
Ngozi, before you go, all your credentials, I mean your certificates, what name do they bear?
Just Ugochi Obilo.
Yeah, use that name. When you are applying, once you feel married, right, they are going to ask further questions. So they will now ask, oh, what's your sort? When did you change your name? They will ask. This is how to keep the track so that you don't have a conflict. You are going for visa interview, and then because on your I-20, which is going to be generated by the school, is going to have a particular surname. And then on your passport is going to have another surname. So you need to still use the one you have on your official documents. And then once you feel married, then you are going to fill some other questions pertaining to change of name. When you change your name, and then you'll be told to upload some documents as regard to where did you change your name. And if you have used newspaper, I hope the newspaper you use is international one, not just maybe you use News Direct or the Punch. I don't know the one you use, but there are some that are recognized at international level, not just within Nigeria. So that one is that. And then make sure that on your NIN, it carries that. And since you already have it on your international passport, it makes the work easier. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Then I wouldn't know if I can get your contacts. I'm doing something on name, and I'm interested in those women that change their surname or having a compound name. So if you don't mind, I can get contact with you. Thank you.
Okay, sir.
So I think we can round up now.
Olushola, are you back now? Because I think I just admitted you. Yeah, if you are back, you can ask your question now. If your network
Thank
is
you. I am back now.
all right. So you can go ahead and ask your question now.
Yes, I am back now. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. I can hear.
I'm trying to ask about the name before. That the arrangement of the name, is it like the one we are having now? They believe that a surname come last, other name come first. Some say surname, the last name. Then which order is polite? For example, now on the certificate you have Fatoki, Olushola, Odunayo. So when you want to fill it in, is it like that order, or it should be your name, initial, the middle, then surname last?
Okay, I think I can say something about that. Nigeria is pronounced by British. So in Britain, they have the surname, and then oftentimes they have a comma before your first name and other name. For American, they use their first name, second name, and their surname. So regardless of whichever one you are using, if you are going to use the surname, let the surname come first, and then let there be a comma. And then you have a surname, for example, Fatoki Olushola. So you can have Fatoki, comma, Olushola, Odunayo. Or another thing you can do is let your surname be in uppercase, right? You can write your Fatoki in full, in capital letter, then you can write Odunayo, O in uppercase, then other one in small letter. So regardless of however you write it, it's not a problem. Yeah, when you are filling the form, you are going to see somewhere they will say last name. Last name means surname. So please take note. So either you see, American often use last name, British will use surname. Okay. So either it's surname or last name, it is synonymous. Yes, I don't think has that answered the question? Yeah, it should have.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Ramon.
So if there is no other question, I think we can bring it to a close. Thank you very much, everyone, for participating. We hope you can now henceforth go ahead and start looking for lecturers, researchers in your field, then get in contact with them, regardless of your CGPA. Either you have 2.2, you have top class. That is not the main problem. If your CGPA is low, there will be other things that will complement. Have you done some community projects? Where are you working at the moment? What experience have you gathered? And then you can go to Coursera and do 1 or 2 programs related to whatever you are doing, get certificates, And then there are ways you can even go about Coursera that you will not need to pay. You can write a letter to them for a waiver. They can waive it for you for payment, because $30 is a lot of money. And then with that one, you can add everything together and you can make your CV very okay, that you can even be considered than someone with first class. It's not about they don't just look at academic alone. They look at other things. What other contribution have you made? Where are you working? How is it facilitating what you are going to do? So either you don't have masters or you have masters. Just check those universities and check what is needed as admission requirements. And then with that one, you can go ahead and apply. And we pray that God will favor you in Jesus' name.
Amen. Thank you, sir.
So let's have a word of prayer before we go.
Amen. Thank you.
Father, we thank you for today. We bless your name.